All right, so we're gonna be talking about navigating the programming for pages, or how to program songs. So first, when you boot up the MA, you'll go into this blank screen here, and we'll go into external 2. That's where everything is here. It's gonna go into this main page. We won't worry about this for now. We'll go into programming. So there's a lot in programming here, and I kind of broke it down. So when you're actually programming, you go into this programming button here. These are all different views that you can select which page you're going to. So you select programming. For now, for the training, I created this separate view that's basically identical. So there's a lot going on in here, and I'll kind of break it down into different sections. So for now, we'll talk about groups and this layout view. So this layout view is what we built out that represents the stage and everything we have going on over there. So all shows all lights that we have, and it kind of goes down into groups. So each individual thing here is a light, so you can select the individual light, multiple of them, and we'll get into programming later, but this, you can bring them up and down, and you see on the stage, on the drape, you can kind of see it coming up and down. So that's how you select lights. And we have different pages to go into more detail. So the floor wash is what we have on the floor right by the drape, so that you can bring up. And then we have the front wash, which is going to be the lights that are above stage, giving the band light and lighting them up. So that's what this looks like if I bring it in and out. That's the front wash. Then we have conventional. This isn't used. These are just the buildings things that are plugged in. And then the house lights, this is the other one that's important. It's broken off into a lot of different sections based on how the school has their lights, patched in. You don't have to worry about this too much. There are issues where the lights can flicker sometimes, so you may have to dim an individual section or make it brighter. And then we have the haze, which brings the haze up and down. This you don't really have to go in. We have buttons that automatically do that for the hazer. So that's the layout view and how to navigate that. And then next on the programming page, we have the groups. So groups are multiple fixtures assigned in one group, essentially. So for instance, if I select the front wash, that selects all of the front wash here, and now I could bring all of them up. Same for the floor wash, it's everything on the floor. House, so these are just different groups that are multiple lights in one button. Next, we'll go into the position presets. So I kind of narrowed it down to where it's showing just what we're looking at rather than everything. So for positions, all of our lights are moving lights. So for instance, the floor wash, I'll bring those up on stage. Actually, and I'll turn the haze on too so we can see that. So we turn the floor wash on, and all these positions just move it. These are pre-programmed positions that we have, so whether it's straight, it's going to be kind of focused just straight out. We have wide, which they're kind of fanned out wide. There is in, so now all of the lights are pointed in almost towards a single point. And that's going to be straight up, and then we have presets for lower, so it's the same exact thing. Now we have low lights to where they're almost on the crowd, which is lower, and all those different presets. And then we have the floor, which are the lights just on the floor. Those are some basic presets that we have for that. So now on to the color. There's a few different views for the color, and I'm going to bring the lights on. Actually, I'm going to put them on the floor here so we can see the color easier. Let me go back to color. So for the color, you have just different presets, kind of self-explanatory here. So you can touch for whatever color you want. And there are different color views. So this first one, that's the main view. Let me get back to where I was. That's the main view. Well, I kind of messed up part of that. So I'll explain it here. This is just everything that you see at once, but we'll just focus on the color for now. Color 2, now it works, is a separate page for the coloring. Color 3 is the kind of a hue look so that you can touch and drag and it'll, change the color to that. Color 4 shows the actual values, so whether you want the red to go, so if we just do red, that comes up, just green, blue, white, and then you can mix and match colors here and go from there. So that's the color. Now we'll go on to focus. So if I bring the lights up, and let me put them back on the floor. Back into focus. So focus is down here. Just simple presets. So by default, the lights are on medium or 50% focus. We change that to narrow. That brings it to a really tight beam. Wide brings it to a really wide beam. So there's some differences there. I'll put it back to medium. Now we'll go into the dimmer. So dimmer presets, just the intensity of the lights. So you could turn them off here. 25%, 50, 75, and 100. Those are just simple presets that isn't used a whole lot, because this wheel on the other side, when you have the lights selected, you can move this wheel and get some finer tuning on, what value you want it at. So that's dimmer, and now we have effects. There's a little bit more that goes into effects by default, and I'm going to go back to the other programming page we have, because these views here are for the effects above. So by default, it shows the dimmer effects. So when you select the light, you can press the effect, and it applies the dimmer. The effects are named, and we'll go into effects later and how those are programmed. Get a little bit more into detail, but the name of them is essentially the curve of how it's programmed. So briefly I'll go into it, but you don't have to worry about this for now. Effects, it's kind of complicated, but they have what's called a form, and that is how the sharpness of the dimming of the lights essentially. So whether it's a ramp, you see like it basically the curve goes up, and then once it reaches the end, it drops off, so you get this snapping movement. Whereas if you go back to a sine, it's more of a smooth kind of fading between everything. So that's that. We have steps, which kind of they move in blocks, they step between them, they don't actually fade anything. So there's a few different dimmer effects there, and then we have it programmed into, let me bring it back on the floor. So that's dimmer effects. Now you have color effects. So most color effects we have are going to be signs, like gradients moving into two different colors. So we have them labeled the primary color and then the secondary color. So for instance, this one is magenta orange. So then you see the lights are now fading between a magenta and orange. That's how that works. So cyan and violet, we have all these different ones that we use here. So that's color effects. Position effects are labeled. So if you see a P/T, that's a pan and tilt effect. Or some you have just the tilt. So for instance, this tilt sign, it's just going to move the lights up and down. If you have the pan, it's just going to pan them side to side. And then obviously, if it's both of them, it's going to have a combination of the two for different effects. We also have this stomp button. So effects run, when you program an effect, you can't just bring the lights down or anything to stop it. You actually have to stop the effect, which the MA calls stomp. So if you have an effect applied to a light, you'll have to select the stomp button, and that kills all effects applied to it, whether that's dimmer, color, position, or anything. There's focus effects, which we don't really have any programmed, not used a whole lot, but that just brings the intensity in and out for the focus. And then multi-effects are like a combination of dimmer and position or color and position, anything like that. So for instance, we have this dimmer, tilt, flyout, which are this type of effect. The lights move into a position, and once it reaches the last position, they dim out, go back to where it started, and come back in. Just kind of a nice movement. So there's a lot of different combination effects that you could do. So that is essentially all of the programming, the layout for the programming, how to navigate it. We'll go into more detail in other videos.